Android screen and on my PDF. So there are 4 windows going around, so it's going to get a little bit difficult. We're going to get this done. Hi everybody, my name is David Lee, and I'm here to present our team ClassUp. ClassUp is a live class feedback system that collects and displays the most important the class data, which is the comprehension level of the students in the class. Before we just going to do a quick product demo. So in this case, we have one professor, Ibrahim, and we have 3 students. And as you see in the screen, the professor has a Google Glass, and 2 students has Google Glass, and 1 person has an Android. We're trying to make it a real-world case. So before they enter the class, they're going to start ClassUp application. So you're looking at 2 Google Glass screen, Ibrahim and Lance. So Google Glass screen, and what you don't see is Michael's Google Glass screen, and Alan is using Android. What our application does is it takes the feedback from the student. Student can tell the professor that he does understand or he does not understand the lecture by either shaking your head left and right or nodding your head up and down. Very natural movement. Like, so when you're talking to somebody, when you understand somebody, you start just nodding, right? We are capturing this big data. Like, how many times does this person actually, nod your head while you're listening to the lecture? So we're going to give a quick demonstration real quick. So whose screen is on the right? So ClassUp actually started, and somebody nodded, just got a +1. So this screen shows the historic data, how we started, and the class name, and how many people are participating as well. And what they're doing, of course, on their side, they're using an Android, and they're using another Google Glass to participate in this big data event. So they are looking at the same screen right now. Can get this one to work. So this +1, -1 is happening as they are nodding their head or they're shaking their head left and right.
Hey Glass, check this class. Down, come back in.
So we also built out a system where, could you just keep pressing, I don't get it. So if you just keep pressing, I don't get it, it falls below the threshold and the UI is going to change to something red. So the professor can get some sort of notification, but doesn't really block your view, that tells you that, hey, there's something that's happening in this class. So as you see this red bars coming up, this is just going to get brighter and brighter as this thing goes down. So let's just go to PDF real quick. So how does this help the students? Student can now, next page. Students can now easily engage with the professor. How many times you're in a class, you want to raise your hand, you want to say something, but you don't want to be like, am I the only dumb person in this class? But by doing this, you can always tell professor, hey, I don't understand this, right? And student, so we built another system where we actually capturing this video and audio, and we are actually putting this data on top of it, kind of like SoundCloud, right? So when you look, we want to demo this later as well. Student can always go back and look at the lecture and kind of evaluate what actually happened. And next slide. How is this going to help? No, go back. Sorry. How is this going to help the professor?
Yeah, so for professors, and I'm going to apologize, guys. We had a little bit of a technical issue with our Wi-Fi connecting to the database there. But the idea is that for the professor, the biggest benefit you have is that they have some kind of quick visual confirmation using Google Glass that they are getting their point across to the students. I think the most valuable thing in education is knowing that you've got a connection with the people that you're talking to and that you're teaching. So the idea is that our app is going to give you a live feedback on your glass of how students are comprehending, and they're going to feed it back to you while the class is going on. The most direct benefits of this as a professor are that they have the ability to sort of pivot the class as the day goes on, and sort of mid-class, instead of having to wait until the first midterm where a lot of the students tend to fail the first test, they can kind of pivot earlier on in the process, sort of react, maybe slow down the course, speed it up, and sort of format it in a way that's most digestible for the students.
And so on the left, what you're looking at is an Android version of it. So we are ready to ship both Glass and an Android version of this one. And not only that, the more interesting thing is, let's go back to PDF. And let's look at from the educator part. Educator meaning the Department of Education, where the parents, actually the people who work outside of this class, they can evaluate the professors and a student activity pattern, right? And they can get this big data, and you can analyze by race, by gender, by city, state, by country. And parents can now monitor what's actually happening in these classes. Next one. So this is actually where we're talking about educator, parents, and future students. Could you go to the website real quick? Click on your classes. So this is our website where it's ready as well. Advertising 320, if you just go there, there's the one class. If you just play, play that. You can play real quick.
It's actually time, I guess, 5 minutes.
Yeah, so we had a lot of UX considerations that we couldn't really present because out of time. We'll just open up the floor for the questions that you have.
What was the technology used for both the student side and the professor side of the class?
Thanks.
So we're using the Android GDK, and what we do is we use the immersive view. So you saw the screen timed out a lot, and that's usually when I hack, I force it on all the time. But we tried really hard to do immersion and to let it time out. But if I look up, there it is right there running until I actually leave. So just like the Google Maps activity. So we're trying to be battery conscious, but also have a live shared class feed to include the professor in.
Can you talk more about whether the app's running continuously and how do you avoid, extraneous head movements and, do you have check-in points?
Yeah, sure. Just one slide I want to show you. So UX consideration that we had was, so for instance, head gesture. Somebody can be nodding like many times with the one point, right? So we built a system where when somebody nod, it has to be more than once, and we're going to give a 5-second break because nobody's going to nod 5 times, right? Like 5 seconds. So if we nod again, we're going to give another point. So those kind of UX consideration. And from the professor point of view, it's actually going to go to sleep, right? But when now class has a glance feature. When you glance up, now it's going to show the current status of current status of your class. So it'll go back to sleep, like if you're not looking at it for the next seconds.
Just as a follow-up, I think the benefits to the professor of having that feed, are pretty clear.
Yes.
Do you think the benefits of having the students, input whether they get some or not on glass outweigh just being able to pull out the smartphone and say, I don't get this, I do get this? Yeah,
so the smartphone is because of the smartphone, like you're distracted, flipping left and right. But when you're actually nodding is very natural. Like, we're even getting that information. Because sometimes, like, people don't want to be like, hey, I get it, but they actually do get it. Like, so naturally, I'm trying to get this data from you by nodding your left. And one other thing is, a lot of times in the class, the professor does not want students to take out their phone. Like, because they're doing something else. So that we're kind of looking at that use cases. Any other questions? Yeah. What if the student falls asleep? So that's the kind of case, like, where we're going to run this, right? And since they're using the Google, the Gmail account, we can get the student data, right? And if he does something like, totally different than like a normal pattern, maybe we can kind of wipe that data out, like, So we need to get this, like, in the wild and to see what kind of pattern that we get. Any other questions? Yep, I think that's it. Thank you very much.